So, Michael, I have a short intro on you as well. So, I said you are a local star from Basel. Is correct?
Star, I'm not sure, but...
So, you are CEO of Cellestia, the spin-off from the EPFL, founded back in 2014. You raised like 8 million of seed money so far, and you're developing first-in-class pan-notch or notch inhibitors in oncology.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
correct? Cool. Then, the round of applause for Michael as well. So, I guess when I started preparing that interview, I was curious about the notch pathway, and I looked a bit, and it looks like it's a really crowded space. Like I listed like the companies working on it. You're like STEM-centric, so just acquired by AbbVie, Celgene, Sanofi, Astra, GSK, BMS, Eli Lilly. Like how
And Celestia.
and Celestia. how what makes you unique in this space?
Yeah, I think if you look at this pathway, it is quite complicated, and that's also why so many people work on it, because there's so many different aspects to work on it. To step back, notch is cells talking to each other, right? And there's many factors like activating factors, so cells sending a signal, and there are 5 different molecules that do that, and our competitors target one of these. Okay. Then downstream, you have 4 receptors receiving that signal. And again, companies work on 1 or 2 of these, but not on all of these. Then the company is trying to do what we do, like covering it broader, which is another dimension, but the compounds available for that have a mechanism that is relevant for about 70 or 80 other biological functions, which leads to
Side effects,
very poor tolerance and adverse events. Now we have a unique compound which is, to our knowledge, the first mode of action selective transcription factor inhibitor. So we can switch off the notch pathway at the most downstream event, which is gene transcription.
But so it's intracellular targets.
Yes, it's intranuclear targets. So it's within the cell nucleus on the transcription complex. So we can selectively switch off gene transcription related to notch pathway activation. And this is what nobody can do. And the advantage of this is, first, it's the most selective compound. At the same time, it is the broadest coverage on this pathway.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Because I mean, there's so many companies that failed of targeting intracellular targets.
I think what the inventors, Freddy Radke and Rachel Hall at EPFL did was they made a conscious choice to look for a gene transcription inhibitor and approach it from a cell-based assay and not from an enzyme-based assay, because you're targeting a protein complex of 20, 30 proteins interacting with each other, and then of course you have to do the right sequence of assays and find the right compounds and have a bit of luck as well to really then find this sort of specific interaction. And then we worked into confirming that this is really a specific interaction, which in fact it is.
That's great. And I guess now, I mean, you have your preclinical data, and you plan to go into phase 1, I think, this year.
This year. Yeah.
How is it going so far?
Very well. We completed the complete manufacture, formulation, toxicology. We are in the final stage of compiling the dossier for clinical trial application.
Yeah.
Protocol is ready, so we will file within the next 6 weeks or so, and hope to have the first patient recruited during third quarter of this year.
Good. Send the press release as well. And maybe you can comment on I don't know what's public, comment on the preclinical results. Like, how was they?
We have published a little bit, but not too much for patent reasons. We have the whole pathway basically from the mode of action on the 3D structure of the protein to in vitro, in vivo efficacy, proof of concept. We can also show that our compound can cover subtypes of the disease driven by constitutive activation, where none of the receptor-ligand interaction related compounds work. So we have basically an exclusive market niche and medical need where our drug is the first and only that would work on this pathway, and we are competitive with others, and we have data to show that our compound is as good or better in terms of efficacy on the competitive side, and certainly from the safety profile, we believe we are much better than any of our competitors.
Okay. And just to get the bigger picture on Notch, is there already a product on the market targeting Notch? Not yet.
No, so we still have chance to be first in class as well.
And what's the most advanced product?
I think the most advanced were antibodies, which recently came into trouble, derived from Oncomed, so GSK and Celgene products have faced some negative news, and we also know from investigators we work with, they have also issues with the safety profile. Right. So while we can take advantage of our competitors in them paving the path for us in confirming clinical proof of concept, which some of these have achieved, very clear responses, if you get the right patients, we can also take the learnings from issues they have, which is one of which is they did not do patient selection for Notch positive, because if a patient has a cancer which is not related to Notch pathway activation, you should not treat these patients.
So you have a biomarker program as well?
We have a biomarker program ongoing alongside with the compound.
Okay, and how is that like?
That's ready to use based on currently available technologies, and we are doing a next generation, our proprietary diagnostic, and this work has just started. Okay. And we got a nice CTA grant for that as well. And so
you're talking with Roche for the for the expertise with biomarkers?
Well, we talk with all people who know their business, yes.
That's good. And I guess I had more question on the indications. I mean, you seem to be going after leukemia quite a lot, and I guess it's a field. I mean, leukemia tumor in general seems like to me a field where you have a lot of also like immuno-oncology, CAR-T, which are showing like just amazing results. Like, don't you think it can be a threat on a 5-10 years view?
No, not really. I mean, CAR-T is a completely different topic. We look for patients where the disease is driven by Notch. Yeah. And this is a distinct subtype where typically other therapies don't work or work very poorly. It's also resistance and escape mechanisms. So even with many of these great immuno-oncology drugs, many of these work also only in a subset of patients, and most of them actually don't cure patients either. Many patients get actually relapse after some response, as you get for chemotherapy, as you get for targeted therapy. So we see this as an opportunity to combine. It's also an easy, from a procedural perspective, it's an oral drug, so it can be easily combined also with other drugs. And ultimately, we believe our drug will be registered in a combination regimen, not as a single agent.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems to be the trend anyway to combine in the industry. You have already plans for combination right now?
We currently
in the trial?
Yeah, I mean, the first trial is, of course, safety, single agent, then proof of concept, single agent, and we are currently profiling suitable combination partners across various indications. Okay.
And even in combination, you believe that it will be a blockbuster, or the next blockbuster?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as said, many efficacious drugs have efficacy in a time window, and then you have patient relapsing, and it's quite widely published already, and we have also our own data in this regard, that Notch pathway activation is actually a response to treatment, and this happens to chemotherapy. This happens in targeted therapies. There are really good publications where you can see that initial response on, let's say, a PI3 kinase inhibitor is then overcome by a Notch pathway upregulation, and this would be an obvious combination. Combination with taxanes are published. So there's a lot of space here, and there are generic cheap drugs which we can combine with as well as really innovative new therapies like the immuno-oncology drugs and antibodies on the market where we would see a clear fit to combine.
That's great. And And about what's the vision of the companies to, I mean, your lead compounds seem to be more advanced than the others, but is it to like really develop the whole pipeline and to be a platform company for Notch in general, like to develop several indications?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have one lead compound, and we're going to profile this in many indications. We also have now much more insight into the mode of action of how exactly the molecule binds to the target, which is the basis for our platform to discover next generation molecules. There are related pathways that might be interesting. So we certainly want to build up a pipeline of more than one drug, which we could then position in different indications, different formulations, etc.
All right, that's great. And so I guess it's a good transition to financing. I mean, to develop a platform company, I guess you need a lot of money. So you raised a first seed round, I think, with not disclosed investors or non-disclosed investors.
We have so far the company is privately owned. We have we started with local private individuals, friends, family, our consultants. Many of our consultants were first investors.
Okay.
We have in Basel and in particular, and also in Switzerland, as in general, quite a good community of private individuals who have some affinity to healthcare investments. Many of which made their fortune in the healthcare sector, so they keep investing in that. This has created a certain momentum and trust, because I think after the second financing round, half of our investors were people from pharma industry, which also served as a validation for private individuals who may have one or two consultants to look at the project but couldn't really judge the science. We have one institutional investor, a PPF group from Czech Republic, which is a fund behind a Czech pharma company called Sotio. So they conducted basically a due diligence on us and then invested also as a strategic investment. We're talking to private, to VCs, to corporate.
Everyone.
We talk to everyone.
Everyone has money.
And we're probably going to launch another financing round, a larger financing round in summer.
So Series A.
Series A to finance the complete clinical program. We can start the clinic now with what we have. But to finance the complete clinical program, we're looking for another 10 plus later 20 million. And also with recent excellent news on the understanding of the mode of action, we also need to do much more and want to do much more also in the next generation program, in designing new molecules and bringing these forward as well.
That's great. I mean, I guess one part of the ecosystem part, what I've seen in Switzerland, and it's not the first time I hear that people made money in biotech or in pharma and reinvest, and it really creates the ecosystem. Like, do you really feel it more? I know you feel it more here than in other cities in Europe.
Well, I don't know so much about how it really is in other cities in Europe.
But do you feel it? You feel it here?
I feel it here. I think Basel is an excellent place for starting a company for this environment. Also for Basel area, supporting companies, including and for the Basel launch for this building here. We have access to infrastructure, office and lab space for decent under decent conditions. The whole network of people also from Roche and Novartis. I mean, I worked at Novartis many years.
I have a question on that.
You have access to talent here from your former colleagues. So over a lunch you get advice and insight for free, and if you have to hire people, there is always people who have the entrepreneurial spirit to get to move out of the big corporations into a startup. I
had one question on this. Why did you do the move from Novartis? I think you worked at Syngenta as well. Why did you move and moving back to or moving to entrepreneurial side, and why is that?
Well, I've moved forwards and backwards. I mean, when I was a student, I was dreaming of my own company, and I think the science I was working on at university wasn't good enough to do that. And actually, I'm glad not having done the step, as a first job. So coming the path through almost 20 years experience in industry, large industry, Syngenta and Novartis, as well as biotech startups in the region. I think with this experience, it's even more fun because you know what you're doing, you know what you don't know, and where you better go and ask somebody. The access to the network is also really important. You can't do this on your own and with your best friends from the university. You have to have access to science and also know-how in industry.
And how is it for the rest of the team?
Similar. So we have a good mix of people from academia. So basically the founder team is reflecting scientific excellence from academia, with Freddy Radke and Raj Lehal, who bring over 10 years of project-related experience into the company. So all the know-how from academia is transferred into the company and maintained there. And then we have myself and other colleagues who've 10, 20, 30 years experience in industry in various roles, from myself development or early stage research or early development, legal, financing. So we started broad with a broad team, and consciously done so that we have within the founder team the relevant and critical expertise in-house from the start.
That's great. Yeah, I hear it quite often that actually it's the hardest part in biotech in Europe is to find good management team and a good team. From the especially from the VCs I talk to, they're it's really the most difficult. You didn't have any.
Yeah, I can echo that.
Troubles,
and we gone the other way. So I was together with some friends. We set up a search team. So besides our day job, we were searching for projects for 5 years about.
Oh, okay.
So as a kind of hobby, we looked at projects. We got with many projects as far as term sheets, etc. Then finally decided not to do it because something didn't work out. It was a team of the founders. It was the science not convincing enough for us to make the jump out of the job. And
you need a good packet.
And it's also the personalities of those who came with the project and also their expectations. And with the Cellestia team, who founded originally the company in Lausanne, we had a good mix of personalities, experience, great science, a good track record, academic side. The patents were good, so there was a really good package. So we liked them and they liked us, and then we joined forces 1.5 years ago.
That's great, yeah. And
how did all those projects came to you? How were you looking at them?
Through the network. I mean, we got contacts. We've been looking at scientific publications and called up people at universities, and also projects came to us. Some of our earlier colleagues who unfortunately passed away was a startup coach. So from that we got contact to this project.
That's good. Thanks for the first questions. Now I can open up to other questions. Yeah, go on.
You spoke about things you like here in Basel. So is there something you do not like or that you miss or that could be improved in the ecosystem?
Well, just
legal framework or whatever.
We'll repeat for if there's stuff you don't like in Basel.
Not really, no. I mean, apart from the weather in the last couple of days. No, I think it's really a great place. It has the right size. It's not like a huge mega city where you get lost. It's a good size environment where you actually meet people also by chance in the street. It is international, but you can do a lot of stuff local because many people from all over the world come here.
Yeah, only 20% Swiss here actually.
And only 20%.
It's good.
I've really nothing to complain. Also legal. I mean, I'm German, but and I hear how complicated it is to run companies in Germany. So maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah.
Here it's that easy. I mean, it is not really a big hassle. Yeah. Even as an AG with shareholdings and Chamber of Commerce register and all this stuff, this is all. It's a kind of a clockwork that works very smoothly and without too many complications.
I heard about it. I mean, actually, in Germany, it's the main problem we have is just complicated, and you have to pay your taxes. Not like in France and.
Well, as soon as you start
no, but it's really strict, and you have a lot of rules and the tax system in Germany is super complicated and I heard that it's more.
It sounds.
It's easier actually. I'll just repeat for the mic. So as a startup, how is it to access patients and to interact with the authorities?
Okay, that's two questions. So first question, how to interact with authorities. There's regulations that you have to comply with. And of course we have our own experience from more than 20 years in the industry. of composing a dossier and filing it properly and being able to answer questions. So that's actually quite straightforward. Of course, if your drug is not good, you have a more difficult discussion than if you have a good compound to put forward. On the second question, access to patients, it depends. If you have, again, a good scientific rationale and a good product and a medical need, what you have to do is, that's what we've done, is you have to find the right physicians and investigators to work with. You can't just contract it out to a CRO, particularly not in oncology, where you go straight into patients. So we have actually, and again, this is going back to the quality of the science, of the underlying science, we've been able to win Europe's best and most prominent oncologists to support the program and actively work on it. So not only show their face perhaps on a website or so, actually they worked with us on the protocol. They are in charge of running the trial in their clinics, so we're working with the best clinics in Europe to conduct our trial. And also with specialized clinics who take care of patients with this particular form of the disease, where we have something to offer, which is a medical treatment which is otherwise not available.
Answers the question. Yeah. By the way, you can come and sit here. You have some seats left. Any other question? Yeah.
Do you plan to be a public company?
If you plan to be a public company?
Right now, no. You never know. Going public is one way of financing. It's not something you do as a purpose. It is the outcome of having to raise more capital and to also offer your investors an exit at some point. So it's hard to tell. We may go public, we may stay private, we might be acquired by somebody. We see.
Open to opportunities.
How big is your target population? Because I understood that you plan to have a companion diagnostic as well as part of it. Yeah. So what kind of figures are we talking?
It is emerging. Current estimates is about 200,000 to 300,000 patients a year have not in the top 7 major markets, so like the top 5 in Europe and US, Japan, have notch-related disease. That gives you a market potential of around 10 billion at typical prices. Right now, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So every month there's new publications almost discovering new features of notch and its relevance. So whilst we're working on it, it seems that there might be a much bigger opportunity, and that's emerging. And that's also something we're going to find out as we start generating our own data in terms of prevalence and importance of notch in certain indications.
Yeah.
Does your molecule, can your molecule pass the barrier, the hematoencephalic barrier?
The what, sorry?
It can pass the hematoencephalic barrier, the molecule?
If your molecule can pass the brain-blood barrier.
Yes. Yeah. We can also, and that also opens the opportunity to treat metastases from notch-positive cancers, which again our competitors cannot do. Yeah.
And I guess any large molecule cannot do, right? Yeah.
The large and also the small.
Or large, large
also,
biologicals.
Yeah, the large anyway, and also the gamma secretase inhibitors, small molecules, which have other safety issues. They typically don't cross the blood-brain barrier, to our knowledge.
Good. You had a question in the back. I've seen you. But, yeah.
I want to ask you whether are you planning for new molecules, or currently you are focused on one molecule only, or are you still investigating on other sides of the research where we could spot new molecules? Are you looking for such a scenario?
We are working on our next generation compounds. Yes.
Good. I was about to repeat the question. And how are you looking for them?
We can actually design them because we know exactly the binding pocket, etc. So it's actually, again, one of the things many chemists have dreamt of, and we're actually able to do it. You can actually design and predict which compound will work, and currently have a 100% hit rate on making the right prediction that a certain compound would work, or we also deliberately designing compounds we think do not work, and they don't. So
Okay.
it's a very good understanding of the target.
So you don't look for in licensing or partnering on molecules.
We look.
I
That's a different topic. We are approached by people who have interesting compounds, and we look at this more in an opportunistic fashion.
Yeah.
Certainly, we have interest to build a pipeline long run,
Yeah.
but we're not searching. Right now, the focus is really to bring the lead into the clinic, and to have follow-up compounds entering early stage development end of the year or early next year.
Sorry, I just have another question because I'm so interested.
Don't be sorry for having a question. It's good.
My question is more, so when you were presenting your idea to the investors, did you went through a more scientific approach, or did you go through real business numbers, bringing NPV values, how much margin you think, depending on your business model, I don't know what it is, do you want to sell it or whatever it is. So was that the commercial inclination that you brought into the presentation, or was it more the scientific reasoning? Why this idea is great?
It's a science.
So
sorry.
if when you were pitching the investors, if you are focusing more on the science, or if you're making more the business case and the profit margin business model.
Well, against both, but the basis is the science. So all institutional investors, professional investors from the healthcare industry, be it VCs or family offices or corporate, the first starting point is scientific quality. That determines a rationale for medical need, which is quite obvious and well documented also by published work, not just our opinion. And from that you can derive that there is a business potential. How large it is and how much we might get out of that is then a matter of in which indication you get approval. But certainly there's a clear start at the science, and from that you can derive that there is a market, there is a need, and if you have a good product, you will be a good investment. Yeah.
That's great. I have one bonus question. The time is over, but I have a bonus question. Always a bonus question. I guess since Actelion, it's not completely done, but it was massive deal, like 30 billion from J&J. Did you see any change like in the mentalities? I don't know, like people here in Basel, in the biotech industry, like did you notice anything?
Well, I noticed that it has a positive impact on the atmosphere. Biotech was and remains a risky investment. Many projects fail. I've seen many projects failing myself, even in Novartis and other companies. The common theme is, from my observation, many good drugs fail because of bad decisions, and some then are rediscovered and repurposed and redeveloped by a next party coming up. This deal certainly has been helpful in creating a positive spirit that healthcare investments and starting a company in Basel can have a good ending, as many other companies did in this period that were founded around the time Actelion was started. I think it's about 50-50 of the companies had positive exits and deals, and others disappeared from the landscape. So it's great having these landmark events and these success stories, not only somewhere on the globe, but actually here in Basel.
That's great.
So congrats on the Actelion founders.
It's actually the person I want to meet the most, Jean-Paul Clausel, actually. At least the one in Basel I want to meet the most. Great, thanks a lot. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for Michael.